Good afternoon.
I'm glad everyone was able to come out to this kind of gloomy day. It's raining outside, but we're here. We're present and accounted for. My name is Juanita Johnson, and this is Wars Fashion. And this is what we call our meeting, our monthly standard meeting. It's the second Monday of each month, 11:30. We're a little bit on the late side today, but we do have our meeting the second Monday of each month at 11:30 to 1. And the primary purpose of our alliance is to gather neighbors, residents, as well as business owners along the corridor so that we can encourage and promote e-commerce. I'm not e-commerce, but commerce down the 24th Street corridor. And so, that being said, I kind of lead this group. Tanya and Kay are the vice president. We have some other members that are in a leadership role that are not present today, but they should be coming later. For example, Jesse is a part of a senior citizen group, and he had to go to the zoo today. He kind of wanted to play with the animals today. And it's the meeting. But anyway, I'm going to start to my right, and we're going to go ahead and go around the room and introduce ourselves and what organization we might be with.
I'm David Patton, and I'm with the Learning Community.
I'm Jared Johnson, and I'm Vice President of Long School Neighborhood and President of Long School Edition HOA.
I'm Julie Smith. I work for One Omaha Female Neighborhood Groups.
Manuel Cook, City of Omaha Planning Department.
Felicia Goodwin, Program Coordinator for Local Leadership. I'm Meredith Dillon. I'm also with the City of Omaha Planning Department.
Michael Van Sant, City of Omaha.
I'm Jeff Speed with Napa, and I apologize. I have to leave in like 3 minutes. So when
Stephen Abraham, with a community worker for Charles Drew, also Commissioner for Omaha Housing Authority, and also I sit on the board of Project Homeless Connect and Early Learning Center.
And Terry Sanders,
Hi there.
can I please pick on you? Could I please have you come up here and sit, because you're kind of like in the background. We can't really see you.
Oh.
We really want you to be a part of the group.
Have mercy. I was getting ready to introduce myself.
Right. But you can do that now.
Oh, wow.
She's out of order.
Hey, yeah.
All right.
I'm Terry Sanders with OEDC. I am the site manager for the Fairdale Village Marketplace. Come to the grocery store.
Precious McKesson, President of North Omaha Neighborhood Alliance, Constituency Director for the Nebraska Democratic Party, and Urban Affairs Committee Clerk for Senator Justin Wayne at the state legislature.
Elijah Ali, Network for Holistic Recovery.
May Davis, OIC Neighborhood Association.
Tanya Cooper, President of OIC Neighborhood Association and Vice President for the Central Street Corner and staff at Omaha Sun.
Caleb Thor, owner of this location, treasurer of Long School, Vice President of 24th Street Corner.
Juanita Goodwin, Executive Director for Local Leadership Group on Community Housing and working on neighborhood revitalization in the 24th and Spencer Doors Street.
Nathaniel Williams, general contractor, mega designs, and consulting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're going to get this show on the road. Please put your phone on vibrate. If you do need to take a call, please step outside and take that call. We're going to start off with Julie talking about Neighborhood Fest. And then we're going to, once she's done with her presentation, we're going to take time to ask questions. But please let her finish her spiel, if you will. And then when we're done with that, we're going to move on to Meredith Dillon with the city. And she's going to talk a little bit about the neighborhood assessment that you did some time ago. And again, we're going to let her give us her spiel. We're going to ask, have an opportunity to ask questions, and that'll be that. thank you, and go ahead.
Great, thank you so much, Juanita. Hey, Vince. So, One Omaha, is anyone who knows about Neighborhoods USA conference that happened last year? By show of hands. Okay, so lots of people, but we still have some people that don't know. Omaha hosted a national neighborhood conference last spring. Was it only last spring?
May.
It was last May.
It's almost a year.
It doesn't feel like
Just
that
a
long.
year.
So and there was lots of momentum. We had like 400 to 500 attendees just from Omaha attend NUSA. It's hosted down at the Hilton. And we want to keep that momentum going of exciting and engaging platforms for people to learn skills that they can use in their neighborhoods and their neighborhood associations. And so we put together a committee of neighborhood folks, and we have someone representing South Omaha, Midtown, and then 2 from North Omaha. And actually, Manny's one of our committee members. And they created this concept to have a neighborhood conference that's going to be really fun. And it's going to be engaging and interactive. It's not going to be the traditional platform of you sit in a classroom and have someone lecture you. And they came up with the name Omaha Neighbor Fest. It's going to be September 16th. It's a Sunday. And we're doing it in partnership with the Omaha Marathon. And we talked about different locations, but what we've landed on is that we're just going to do it right down the street on 24th and Burdett. And we haven't secured the location at OEDC, but it's our desire and our priority to use the parking lot.
There you go.
Terry, you'll get a formal letter requesting it. Yeah, give me a cake. No, we're following all the policies and procedures we need to. We're going to shut down the street on 24th and Burdett. We're going to leave 24th Street open. We hope that the traffic, people will have live music, demonstration projects about, like specifically, like we'd like to have a mural project. I'd like to have an area where people see like some potted planters, and then someone can be there to tell them about how neighborhood groups, what the benefits of those potted planters are, whether it's slowing down traffic, beautification. It can be a good interactive exercise with people who are involved with environmental projects, those kinds of things. We want people to go there and to take away ideas, really practical, and have practical steps on how to complete those project ideas. So, and we want to have a project pitch section of it. If anybody went to the 2015, a long time ago, in the neighborhood conference, we had this segment where people were able to get up in front of the audience and just pitch an idea for 3 minutes or less. Tanya, did you do it? Did anybody in the room get one of those 2015? Because it was really loose.
I did.
It was like if you got up and gave a project pitch, then you became eligible to fill out a grant application. And One Omaha was granting the money. We don't grant out money like foundations do. We have like really loose parameters because we want you guys, and you can use money on food, drink, water, stuff that other people would restrict. We don't do that with our grants. So I said project pitches, demonstration projects. We're definitely going to have live music because I just know that'll make it more fun. We're going to bait people in that are on the fringe of neighborhood associations. We're used to always talking to the choir. Like everybody in this room understands the benefits of neighborhood organizing, but we want to get those people that aren't 100% sold on why we have neighborhood associations. And then we'll also have opportunities for any nonprofits or business groups or neighborhood groups that are doing programming that's really empowering neighborhood associations. They'll be invited to have a free booth. We really want the planning department, the public works department, and the parks department to come and show people what they can really use from their department. There's always confusion on what public works can and can't do. So we think this will be a good platform for them to be able to explain face to face. And then other nonprofits that have really good programs that are community based. And if you guys have recommendations in any way, shape, or form for how you want to see what Omaha Neighborhood Fest is shaped to be, it's completely community led. One Omaha doesn't want to make any decisions about what Omaha Neighborhood Fest should be, because we want to listen to the community members, what will help you guys, especially since we're hosting this first annual Neighbor Fest in your area in North Omaha. And you can jump on a committee. We have a finance committee, volunteer committee, program committee. logistics. If you ever want to participate in that kind of capacity, you're more than welcome. We have monthly meetings for all those committees. Manny heads up the program committee, which I think is like kind of the most fun one to dive into. But we're also just looking for any kind of feedback. And you can just call me or email me, text me, or if you want to go grab coffee and talk about how you think that it could be really elevated and enhance the knowledge and skills of neighborhood leaders. And we're trying to get people from all over the city to come. What else? What did I leave out? Anything? Does anyone have any initial questions?
I do.
Yeah.
What activities being done to rejuvenate or reintegrate neighborhood organizations that are defunct?
With Omaha NeighborFest in particular, or just what One Omaha does?
Well, I would think as it applies to the participation in the NeighborFest.
Well, that's a good question. What do you think we should do?
I think it should be a committee designated to do just that.
That sounds great. You want to lead it?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. I
Good.
think that'd be fantastic,
All right.
especially in North Omaha. Like, I know the neighborhood directory way too well, and there's a lot of defunct groups. And also, just this past weekend, Tony from Fairfax Neighborhood Association passed away, so I know that's going to be a big gap in leadership. Because we get a lot of good stuff on the ground.
I'm sorry, and I didn't hear the question, Elijah, because I was answering the email. What were you going to? What was Elijah going to? What were you going to be?
I was asking what were they doing to identify or reorganize or reestablish neighborhood organizations in the area that are defunct.
Now I do know that Nona is working currently on a. We have a list of all of them, the neighborhood associations, and send out letters soon to those neighborhood associations to see if they're still are they wanting to continue? Do they need revamping? So maybe I can send you that list of.
Maybe you can
all
work
of
with
them.
us.
I mean, we can work together on it.
We can do that. All right.
I was really good. I was really glad to see that Logan Fontenelle there was somebody, taking that piece, because I really thought that Logan Fontenelle was, if I hadn't heard anything from them, and to see that they were doing things, and because they received the mayor's grant for a cleanup.
Right.
So I was glad to see that somebody had taken on that, because that, it's so close, but there's all these little ones that are like in between, they're in between Juanita and then Cummings. You know what I mean? That we don't know where they are. And there's like even up in the cracks, there's like Conestoga Place, but there's like some of these people that are like right up against me, that are on that Juanita, she stops at 20. I don't want to say Juanita, I mean Long School. They're at 24th and Lake, but they're on the west side. Who is this? That's across from OIC, but on the south side, I stop at 24th and Lake on the north side, but we don't know who this is. That's right there on the south side. You know what I mean? We don't know who that is, and so like a lot of people, I just kind of encompass them sometimes because they're asking, but that's like really legitimately not me. Really.
Yeah, well, we could definitely. I think it'd be great if we had a big map at NeighborFest where it shows, like, people could put a sticker, like, hey, this is my neighborhood group, and there could be some way where they put down their contact information too. It could be a huge service to the city of Omaha too, as they're working to update the neighborhood association directory.
Two things. It would be good to have a directory because if anybody was missing their signs from the cleanup, funny story, we thought we would be helpful and like go pick up signs before we like went down the street too far and realized we were going to pick up Miss Ella's signs before we realized we stole the signs from other neighbors. And it didn't dawn on us that we're past. So we like have the signs if anybody wants them. We just figured it'd be a waste of time to put them back since the time was over. So I think that basic information would be
Well, there is
cool.
a neighborhood directory, and it's available at the planning department's website. And I know just those spring cleanup signs, I believe Keep Omaha Beautiful has neighborhood groups turn them back in every year.
Yes. Right.
So you could just take them to Keep
So my
Omaha
point
Beautiful.
though is, even though we're like into neighborhood building, it didn't initially dawn on us that we had gone past the boundaries of neighborhood action back to the point of this neighborhood fest having a map or something that kind of explained that. Because sometimes when you're in the weeds of it all, you see it, know it, and understand it, but the big picture to an outsider or even someone in the neighborhood who's not part of that would make sense. But then I have a second question, which is, you mentioned booths. Could you talk a little more about, like, if a global leadership group would want a booth, or, you know, how you envision, you know, other neighborhood organizations participating if they're not necessarily an association, like agencies or organizations or churches or businesses? How would they connect to that one Omaha One Fest?
The only thing that I'm really focused on right now with the vendor booths and the committee of community members, we'll see how they want it shaped, but my big thing is, like, you can have a booth there for free if you are really providing a service to neighborhood groups.
Right.
Because I know plenty of nonprofits who say that they're helping, that they have the tools and resources to help neighborhood associations, but in all practicality they don't.
Yeah.
Whether for some reason just either the neighborhood group's not ready to use those services because of skills and capacity, or the nonprofit just doesn't really get what neighborhood associations. So I've identified some nonprofits that I know really do extraordinary engagement work with grassroots community leaders. And so those are the ones that I'm probably going to solicit directly to those organizations. And then I know in past conferences, like specifically Spring Lake Park team down in South Omaha, they love to set up booths to advertise all the different programming that's going in their neighborhood association. And by all means, any neighborhood community-based group can have a free booth for that kind of thing. But then if we're talking about private businesses who are trying to capitalize off of what neighborhood or associations do, then they will be charged. But then back to your other point, if you go to oneomaha.org, we have a map where it's like all the neighborhood associations are shaded.
Yeah.
And like we worked with the city of Omaha on it, and there's some groups that are overlapped, because that's also something big in North Omaha, is lots of neighborhood associations overlap each other. One Omaha never tries to, and neither does the city of Omaha Planning Department, we never try to dictate what their boundaries should be. And we think that has to come from the neighbors in the neighborhood.
And I've been to the website, seen the listing, I've seen the map. I'm just saying sometimes that's not top of mind.
Of course.
To someone in day to day, you know, and I thought it would be funny if anybody was looking for their signs. You might have one.
And then I passed out this flyer, touching on Elijah's point about helping revive defunct and inactive neighborhood groups. We have a really dynamic leadership program. This is the last week for the Neighborhood Leadership Academy. And for the spring, we are targeting South Omaha because in the past 3 years, we've figured out that if we're trying to do programming for the entire city of Omaha, all 136 active neighborhood groups, it doesn't work out very well. So we're going quadrant by quadrant. So in the fall, we'll be developing a leadership program just specifically for North Omaha neighborhood groups. And we're trying to shape what that looks like, because what works in West Omaha doesn't work in Midtown, what works in Midtown doesn't work in South Omaha. And so if anybody wants to give us feedback on how you think this programming could be really approachable and really accessible, like we were thinking about doing some like 1 day long events, because how we have it set up in South Omaha right now is like every single week for 6 weeks, one night a week for 6 weeks, you go to a neighborhood leadership academy class, and then we're going to have another 5 weeks of citizens academy. And so we don't know if that's really going to work for North Omaha neighborhood organizers, and whatever feedback you have, we want to know now, because we're setting the foundation for what it's going to look like. Really, the only thing that we feel real firm on at this point is we'd like to do it at 75 North, because it's centrally located in North Omaha, and Othello Meadows is really easy to work with for us, and we want free space. And like the Kroc Center's cost us about $2,500 to use and stuff. So we have contact information. Oh my God, we don't have contact information on here.
Bummer. Well, it says on there.
Register
oneomaha.org.
Yeah. It says Mike McGuire. This should be bolded, his email address, but it says leadership@oneomaha.org or oneomaha.org. You can email him, or if people don't have my phone number and want to talk about it, like, we need your information now, because the more people that tell us what's going to work, for these leadership programs in North Omaha, the better they're going to be. We make all the guesses and assumptions, then I bet none of it's going to work. So please speak up what you want to see from it and how it can be shaped, so it's really going to work for North Omaha neighborhood leaders. And then we do something, and like, I know Manny's group, I'm trying to talk Manny's group into doing it. We do visioning sessions where we'll come in and do like an engaging interactive workshop where you, I promise, in like we have an hour and a half a time, you will come out of it with goals and partners and ideas on what you want to do in the next 1 to 3 years in your neighborhood group. And it's fun. We make it so that it's joyful, and it's also all about relationship building. So you're not just going to get some objectives and some goals, but you're going to get closer to the people that are at that meeting. And we will help you advertise for it and set up the meeting so that it's really meaningful and useful for everybody that's there. And that's available right now because you don't have to wait until the fall. We'll offer that anytime.
I think just while I'm thinking about it, because I'm thinking about something I forget. But while I'm thinking about it, I'm just going to throw this out here to you, Julie. So 2 things come to my mind as far as the neighborhood things go, because these are the 2 things I have problem with. There should be something that talks about why young people should care about neighborhoods. Like that's huge. And then really, what is the big deal about neighborhood groups? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are neighborhoods a big deal? Why is everybody making a big deal out of neighborhoods? You know what I'm saying? And then, because if you answer that question for people, then they can kind of see why they should even be interested in it at all.
What kind of media, because I go all day, every day, different places, talking about just that. Like I have 20 different presentations I can give on why neighborhood groups are important, but how do you think we should communicate that information? Print,
visually,
video,
no,
in person?
No, and I see, and honestly, this is to me where I'm picking on Manny right now. But this is, I'm picking on. This is gonna be Manny's other little gig, right? Okay. This is where Manny and DeJuan could come in because they're now dealing with young people, and this is where noise could come in and be loud.
Yeah.
Because now they have to talk out loud about why young people need to be involved, and it needs to be a visual thing. It needs to be something that is visual and is picture. It's in print, but it's something that you can see. It's not really something that you want to read. It's something that you care about, but it's something that you why you're in the neighborhood. Why? Because a lot of young people don't even know they're there yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's something that you need to be picking up on.
But to Julie's point, you can also have a press conference.
Yeah, good idea.
I just found out how easy they are to get going. I mean, just a couple of calls.
But to echo what Tanya is saying, that is true. What better way to reach that younger target than someone like you? For example, the noise insert that was placed in the Omaha Star just recently, I was very impressed with that.
You know how many? Let me tell you something. I didn't get any less than 15 calls about that. Trying to find out. My phone was ringing off the hook at the Star. And people were trying to find out was that something we were doing. I was even getting personal phone calls about that. I was getting hit up on my personal Facebook page about this thing.
Yeah.
So
great.
I'm saying this is something that's important to people, and I'm not talking about people just your age. I'm talking about there are people my age, there are people my mom's age, there are people were calling me about this thing. So I'm saying this is important to people. People want to know, and it's not, and they're not calling me now just about the Star or just about things that are going on with the Yes program or the OIC or just the Star. People are trying to find out what noise is about. So now hey, okay, pay attention. You're in people's mouth now.
But
okay?
to that end,
so say something to them.
But to that end of that insert, there should be another insert that focuses on neighborhood the same way you focused on, not you, but Dewan or whomever focused on the value of power. That same concept could be used for a neighborhood.
Yes.
Can I?
Before you say that real quick, Dewan.
I'm trying not to be rude. I'm raising up my hand.
Elijah, purposely, I ignored you. And the reason why I ignored you is because I just didn't care.
Okay.
Now you can have your turn.
Thank you.
That was funny now.
I was the only one that got it. I was the only one that got it. You notice I didn't say anything? That's because I was the only one that got it. It was a joke. Okay. There were two key things that were asked, which overshadowed everything that came out. One was, what is the purpose of neighborhood organizations? Okay? And neighborhood organizations were established because of the term stakeholders by HUD, so that the people in the community would have control of what would go on in their communities. This is another reason why I believe that neighborhood organizations in this area have not been developed the way that they should have been developed, so that they would not know what was going to go on. From that, I'll go to the point of where we're at right now as it applies to initiating the program in September. You have a total shift of concentration, particularly in the North Omaha quadrant. You have more of a younger group, and you have more of a unidentifiable group, like refugee kind of concept, that have no consciousness about what's going on other than they live there. But they live in a very strategic and important area that you've identified to have this activity in. So when we talk about what neighborhood organizations are for, they need to be educated about their strength, and their area of identification needs to be identified and pinpointed. If you look at the map that you're talking about, that's almost non-existent now. All that has to be skewed all over again. It has been done on the city side all over again, but they do it for their general purposes as opposed to the community's purposes. Right. So the educational process should be those in the community where they live, with the understanding that it just came out, and this is some statistics that the Land Bank put out, that 85% of the black population in this area does not own their homes. That has always been a tremendous problem because tenants and landlords perceive things completely different. Landlords have a stake in, tenants are temporary.
Or homeowners.
There are, there's very few homeowners now in this area. And that's one of the things the Land Bank is going through. So their statistics are the ones that we go by because they're the ones that's dealing with the revenue and with HUD. So what they are saying is what the actuality is. That piece right there needs to be identified if you're going to identify what a neighborhood organization is going to be all about. Because if you're dealing with 75% tenants in a geographical area, you got a problem.
Right. But Elijah is right, because the renters, it becomes difficult for us as neighborhood leaders to market the renters.
Right.
And because they don't see why they need to be involved in a neighborhood association. They really don't. So somehow we have to
sell them on that idea.
Sell them on that idea.
It's a power move.
Yeah, and I can speak personally because I moved around so much in the past couple of years that when I was moving to a neighborhood, it was like, man, I'm probably going to be moving out of here in the next couple of years or even the next 6 months. And so it's like, why would I want to make root? And then I want to hear what you guys have to say, but I also want to bring up when One Omaha started 3 years ago, one of the most pressing concerns was that very, very few people under 40 were involved. And now we're seeing a lot more young people engaged, which is really exciting in different parts of town, West Omaha, Midtown, South, North Omaha. But something that we've got to figure out, and we're developing some ideas on how to make it happen, the elderly, or the baby boomers and millennials, they want the same thing for their communities, but they see different pathways to making that happen. And we see them going up against each other a lot. when really like we need to unite those groups. And so we're gonna work on some visioning processes where, like just recently we did this thing at Walnut Hill where there were like 150 people there. We did some visioning around like what they wanted to see happen at this reservoir site. And to get down, like we all have the same goal, but we just have different ways of reaching that goal. But you know, if the millennials take their way, like say we put it all up on Dewan and Manny to make it happen on their way, they're not gonna be able to do it. Like we need to have both groups working together in a really collaborative way. And that's something we're going to work on this summer to figure out how we can do it. We're going to focus on quadrants at a time. But so you guys know that that's something we're really concerned about. Because we were first just trying to get young people engaged, and now we are getting young people engaged, but then they're coming back to us and being like, you know, the neighborhood leader's not letting me speak up and not letting me do this project that I want to do. So that's a really tricky thing, and we've seen cities like particularly Austin, Texas, that happened to them in the past 10 years, where young groups just started to overlap the baby boomer groups, and then they were just fighting with each other instead of actually making progress for their area. So we need to figure out a way to do that. And then Lincoln, it happened with a group of renters, where the renters weren't being listened to by the neighborhood association. So they put they called it a renters union, and they started organizing on top. And then those groups started fighting with each other instead of uniting, because they had the same goals and visions, but it was just about who was being the channel for communication to the city. So that's a big problem. It's not just Omaha; it's all over the country. We're lucky right now that we've got young people that are starting to get engaged. We want to keep that momentum going, but got a lot of work to do to ease the transitions.
And because of time constraints, I'm going to, I've got two people that raised their hand, and this young lady here, and then Precious. But I also want to speak to two resource groups, and that would be the Learning Community Center as well as Blackburn. Those two groups reside here along the corridor, and I think would be very beneficial in terms of you reaching that audience that you're looking for as it relates to your citizen academy.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So I guess I wanted to address one point that Mr. Elijah made, which was this issue of stakeholdership, but then how we can engage who are the stakeholders right now. And I think that those of us, whether it is any of the organizations or businesses or entities represented here, how we can develop this sense of culture in our corridor, no matter who you are. So whether it's your culture, whether you were born here, whether you're a refugee, whether you're a renter, whether you're a buyer, but establishing this culture of ownership. So looking at no matter how long I'm here, no matter what my history is here, having a sense of wherever I am, I'm going to take accountability for what I'm doing. So how I take care of my house, whether anyone comes in or out, how I take care of things around my house, and then after I'm taking care of my own personal interests, making sure I'm sharing that type of interest with my neighbors. So the care that I have for myself, I'm also going to care for you. And then also having this sense of accountability that no matter who's doing what they're supposed to be doing, I'm going to take initiative to be that example. And then also taking that to the leadership standpoint that our entire area is a place where we reside to create community. So I think it's a matter of the stakeholders who are here, no matter who's being consistent or not, just making sure that we're setting that example and we're establishing that culture that whoever comes in, they're going to recognize that there's a culture and there's a standard. Right. We have to change the baseline, right? So maybe the baseline seems like it's here now because of all the empty lots, because of all the dumping, because of violence, whatever that is. But the stakeholders, we can change that baseline so that everyone you have to perform and achieve here. You have to live here because that's our culture. And I think that will really establish and change what we're seeing in the long run.
Absolutely.
Right, absolutely.
Precious.
Well, I'll make mine quick. Two things. I know you had mentioned about the communication thing with noise. Now, Dewan did reach out to us, to reach out to the Alliance about doing, highlighting, letting people know what North Omaha Neighborhood Alliance was, as well as 24th Street Corridor. But with them having a time constraint trying to get their first issue out, he said he will push that back. So definitely we will get with, we'll talk, me and you, Juanita, to sit down and really put that piece together, because he wants us to write it from our aspect. so they can put it in there. Secondly, I feel that what I see as a communication issue when it comes to the new generation coming in, which I had to learn for myself. When I came into this no one knowing who I was. I had to mend those relationships and work hard to get that trust. For some reason, I feel that we have an issue with the new generation that's coming in here now who do not understand that, hey, babe, you got to work your way to there. You kids can't come in being disrespectful to the people of North Omaha, especially the ones who've been here, working hard and live in this community. I had to learn that. I had to come and say, hey, this is what I want to bring in. Can you tell me if that's okay? You had to ask permission. You just can't come in demanding. And I think that's what's going on now is that why we have such the conflict is that the new people that are coming in are not given. And I'm considered a new person. They're not giving the people who've been here many years that respect. Yeah. And I will step up and stop them and say, hey, you're not going to disrespect them. You're going to give them that respect. You're going to respect them when it comes to your ideas. Just tell them, ask them, hey, can I come and sit in your meetings? Everybody's open to opinions, but when you start coming in trying to tell someone who has been here, and especially when there are elders, you have to learn how to say, you know what, those are our elders and we got to respect them. And I think that's why we're having the conflict in some areas, because some are not getting that respect for our elders. So
absolutely, and I want to highlight it. That's not just a North Omaha problem.
Yeah.
That happens.
Oh yeah, it's happening everywhere.
That happens all the way on 192nd and Blondo. It happens in some of our highest capacity neighborhood groups, where it's like they do so much. They should be a community development corporation, but so it's something that goes on, and it's all over the country.
And I'm
I will
just
make
gonna
this
put
nice and sweet, please. It's my turn.
Excuse me. We're on a timeline. I said that a few minutes ago, and so
I'm gonna make it short.
So I said I would recognize
Mm-hmm.
two people, and we've done that. I'm not trying to be mean, but you're going to be next up when we let our last speaker speak, Ms. Dillon, and then we're going to have you speak, and then I'm going to have Tanya speak. If you can just hold your thought for just a second, so that we can give our last speaker an opportunity to say something. Thank you.
And thank you guys for being such a good audience. Please reach out to me with questions and comments.
The Fest is
September 16th. Everybody will get way more information.
Just a shout out real quick for the study too. We have block party June 15th through 17th. So
June 15th
through 17th.
and block party's gonna be
Up on 24th.
24th and
All right, Ms. Dillon.
Thanks for having me. Just a few quick points I wanted to hit real quick. An update from the planning department. There were apparently, I think Bill Mukesh spoke with you this weekend. One quick thought is we are looking to find out if you're interested in providing a letter of support or requesting support for a facade improvement update to different businesses and the facades of businesses along the North 24th Street corridor as part of our work that's going on in Neighborhood Action Impact, and then would extend down the corridor in 24th Street. It's something we did when we worked in the Deer Park neighborhood. We allowed businesses to apply for a grant. They would match funds to a donation from a foundation. So it was the Sherwood Foundation provided funding in South Omaha, and businesses could apply for grants up to $10,000 that would be matched by these foundation dollars. And so if that's something businesses
can apply. Any business?
Any
Even
businesses.
a clothing store?
Business. No, all business.
Especially a clothing store.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So all businesses would be able to apply for that up to whenever those funds are expended. So if that's something you're interested in, we're requesting that the 24th Street corridor would provide a letter that says, yes, we would support a grant program. And I can email that information to you so that you have it. But I just wanted, that's one update. Number two update, I was here a couple months back, shared with you what we were doing for the regional housing assessment. That was an 8-county area in 2 states, Nebraska and Iowa. We focused mostly on Omaha, Council Bluffs, and Bellevue because it's a metropolitan area. And other partners did not come to the table in terms of our rural friends or smaller cities. So I wanted to pass these out. We are putting that assessment online today. It'll be up by 4 p.m. And
It is very long. There is an executive summary, so I apologize ahead of time. It's a really big document, but you can look at just the sections you want to, and there's all the information up on our website. In addition, there will be a meeting this Saturday, the 19th, at the Carver Bank Building from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. And that's
on this sheet?
Yep, it's on that sheet as well. And we're going to be providing coffee and donuts and come and ask questions, provide comments. But this is the date today is the first day for the period of public comment. That will go through June 29th. So it's a 45-day public comment. We'll take all the comments, we'll respond to all the comments, and the final draft of the assessment will be put together after all the comments have been addressed. So that's number 2 item on the agenda. And then the third thing I wanted to share with you, I have some information, and I'm requesting, if possible, that you would allow me to come back at your next month's meeting to take formal public comments. But I kind of connected to the Carver Bank Building. We're having a meeting there right this Saturday. Simple Simon and Carver Bank buildings, the city of Omaha is actually planning on selling those properties, and we have a certain amount of CDBG, Community Block Grant dollar funding, that's been invested in those buildings, and because over $25,000 of those federal dollars are invested in those buildings, there has to be a process, according to HUD, to turn those buildings over to a new owner. So currently, we have $210,000 in the Simple Simon building and $75,000 in the Carver Bank building. They have to be sold at market value in order to get those funding dollars back. And we are putting together an RFP process, so a request for proposals, to say here are the 2 buildings that will be up for purchase, asking that certain guidelines are met, and we're asking the community to give us input on what criteria you would like included in that RFP process. So there'll be guidelines that people have to apply, and those guidelines can be determined by, there's no rule right now, I guess. Let me say that for what the guidelines would have to be. And so, for instance, if you wanted to consider, should the buildings be used, like the change of use be considered? Do you want to see them used for something else? Or is there something that you want to be avoided to be there? So if you want to say, yeah, we absolutely don't want it used for this purpose, right? Or do you have a request for how the money that's collected, the CDBG dollars that are collected back, do you have a request for how that would be used? For example, we would like it to be spent within certain distance from the current buildings, which are located close to 24th and Lake. So that was something I would encourage you, if you have a suggestion, especially around how the funding that comes back is used, and you want to see it reinvested in your neighborhood, then make sure that goes on record.
Okay.
I will be collecting records for public comment on that, on those buildings and what you want to see. So. If it's okay with you, I'm asking if I could come to the next meeting and you would have either a written request for how those buildings would be used, or you would have, afterwards we could talk and you could give those to me and I could write it down, and then your comment would go on record. And then the final decision, unfortunately, is not up to us. City Council has a final say on that ordinance. So I will take all the comments. We will put together a draft for City Council and say this is what the community has requested that happens to these buildings, what they would like to see it used for, and where they would like to see the money go.
I just have one question about the Simple Simon building.
Okay.
Because of the fact that one of the reasons why Simple Simon didn't stay in the building was because of the piping and the fact that it kept flooding in there. So that's one of the reasons why the city doesn't really want that building. So how do they plan on selling this building to someone, and they can't stop the flooding in the building, and then they had all these animals that were getting trapped in the pipes, and they had to tear the floors up because the animals were dying in the pipes, and the Simple Simons had to leave, and that smell was just atrocious. So how are you going to get somebody to purchase this building? Because all they're going to do is just do what Simple Simons did, was leave, and you're going to have this empty building just sitting there.
Right.
So
Meredith, before you answer that, As I stated earlier, I'd like for you to finish your presentation.
Okay.
Jared will be first asking a question, and then Tanya will be second, and then Ms. Ella will be third.
That'd be nice.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's just I wanted to provide that information again, those 3 points. So if you have any questions or comments on, again, the fair housing assessment is complete. If you have a comment or question about whether or not you'd like to support something like a facade improvement program. And I should also mention the facade improvement program in South Omaha was administered by a group of neighborhood leaders, and so maybe that's something that the 24th Street Corridor would be interested in participating in, is being the committee that would decide and approve whose requests would get funded. Maybe that's something you'd be interested in. We would like neighborhood leaders to be the persons who decide on the facade improvements. We don't want to suggest that we would know best. So, and then the third, again, is just this process will go through for these 2 buildings.
Okay. To answer your question, you asked a lot of questions of the corridor. And my answer is yes to all of them, and we'll be getting with you.
Okay.
And now, Jared, if you had something you wanted to say, then Tanya and Ms. Ella.
Yes, my suggestion is that both the young and the old listen to each other first, and then you find that the obstacles are the same since the goals are the same, and you make those obstacles the enemy, and that way we all be able to come together. You know, your enemy and my enemy makes us frenemies.
Right.
You understand? And that will solve that problem of arguing the young and the old.
Tanya?
Basically, that question, that was my question. I did have a question for Julie, I forgot what it was, so.
I have one.
My apologies that I actually, I'm unaware of whether or not they have to bring that building up to code before they sell it. Do you have any knowledge on
That's
that?
part of it. That's part of what would be considered, is that somebody with the wherewithal to renovate the building, so to make repairs that are necessary. The building still has value.
Right.
The shell has value.
Because one of the things we'd like to see too is that it's activated as soon as possible. You know, it has active use. So.
And that would be part of the RFP process to say whoever comes in. I mean, it will obviously be.
But is this something that you're going to be disclosing?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
100%. We will make sure that.
Sorry, I had to step out. What buildings are you talking about?
The Simple Simon building and the Carver Bank building. So that it has to be disclosed, and it will be part of the RFP process to say that we want to see them used, and that, you know, that's, and again, anything beyond that, we would love your input. So if you want to say we would like to see specific use or a time period or any of those things, you can make that suggestion.
Okay.
What you had mentioned about the 24, my name is Ella Woods with Neighborhood Action and Facts Association. And with that, what Meredith have said, since the Neighborhood Alliance is also part of the entire neighborhood, so they should be on that board, because I would like to see all the neighborhoods within this boundary to be have some input on the decision making of the idea of what's going to be going on down on 24th Street.
Yes. You're part of the 24th Street corridor anyway, so you would be part of it.
No, not me. I mean the other neighborhoods that in the area. We must reach out.
It would only be along the corridor that this facade program would be. They would be eligible. So it's only persons that would be part of the corridor. But if their neighborhood
the
crosses over
neighborhoods
the corridor,
are part of the corridor.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Then they're welcome to be part of that process.
Because I keep hearing from some of the neighborhoods where they have not been notified, even some of the business where they have not been notified.
And I'm going to ask you this question, Ms. Ellen. When you received that response, did you invite them yourself, since you are a part of the
Yes, I did invite them.
So then
They-
they
a lot of-
consider themselves as being invited, right?
Yeah, but I think it'd be nice if it comes from the corridor, from the alliance up from the corridor, letting them, informing them.
And Ms. Ella, I've told you this
'Cause
before. I have sent notices out to all members in terms of neighborhood association that reside or touching the corridor. I have told you this a number of times. So if you're,
well, they said they haven't gotten anything. So
I can't speak to that, but I am encouraging you that when you're hearing that, if you would please invite them to attend this meeting. Okay?
I do invite them. That's the reason I brought some people today. I do invite them, but
Okay.
a lot of them just don't want to be involved. So I don't know.
Well, if that's the case, if they don't want to be involved, then they really can't have.
Now, you put $100,000 in simple sign-in building?
Over that. We
Yeah,
have
we
over
put over
$100,000.
$210,000 into it. That was initially to renovate that a long time ago.
So fixing the pipes?
So we have,
Long
so
time
that,
ago.
that was done as a, under a category called public facilities. In order to no longer have those kind of restrictions that brings, we need to sell it for fair market value. We'd like to have no restrictions so that those can be freed up for, I think, our thought is that now is probably an appropriate time for those to be available for commercial use rather than being required to be a public facility.
Do you know what get in to see it?
Well, there'll be an open. That's one of the things that we'll have to discuss
All
on
part of the
process.
Do you know off the top of
I have
your
a question.
head what the market value of this building is?
Yes, I do.
I have a question.
The Simple Simon building was appraised for, I believe, $215,000 or $20,000, and the Carver building was $110,000.
100 and what?
10.
Is the Carver building still identified as historical?
That's also a question.
It's not designated on the historic registry. It's part of the, it's a contributing building to the historic district.
It's part of a district.
And one of the issues one of the requirements we
We'd
would
be eligible
have.
for tax credits
Well,
because it's in the district, so.
One of the requirements we'd have is that you not alter the exteriors to deviate from the historic character of the building.
Has the structure of the building been so altered that it doesn't qualify itself for historical?
No, it is
I don't
qualified.
believe so.
It is qualified?
It does qualify as
It does qualify, but it has not been designated? The Carver building has not been designated?
it's part of the district.
But the building itself
has
hasn't?
Not yet. I know that there were some people that were looking into that.
Well, I'm not hearing, y'all, I'm trying to hear this, please.
So yeah, it is currently not, the building itself is not designated currently. It is
Why
part of
why the city can't take that responsibility to do that?
I didn't say that.
They can with the community's help.
Yeah, the community has to do historic preservation designation. It's not something that the city takes on its own.
It's not an easy process.
And it's not an easy process at all. It takes a lot of time. And the history might not be as apparent as it seems, and that's why the community needs to help with preservation.
With the city knowing that it's a historical building, they're not putting that in their...
The community has to take the initiative to do so. It doesn't just automatically happen. So if
In other words, the city, being the owner of the building, cannot take that position to make it historical before they do that?
They can, but they
Yeah. No, I'm not. Wait a minute. Now, I need to hear this.
He just said they can, but
Who said they can?
Hey, Elijah.
I need to hear that.
Elijah.
Yes, ma'am.
Meredith said that she dropped the idea to us right now, and then 30 days later, she's going to come back to our meeting, and I think that would be the perfect opportunity for us to, in between,
research
here
it and see what we can do as a
gather our thoughts, and then come to her with a list of everything at the next meeting, if that's all right with this group. Because it's kind of, I think it's 1 o'clock right now, and these are very good questions that you have, and I'm not trying to take away from that, but I'm just suggesting that we collect those questions and then present them to her at the next meeting.
You gonna be at the next meeting?
I will. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
These old legs and this old voice are seeking young people to take over our walking tour of the Deuce, the 24th and Lake Historic District that we've been doing for the last 8 years. So if you know any young folks and I mean young, 50 and down, that have an interest. I don't have enough for everybody there, but I need to retire from that, and I need some young folks to take over the Walk for Restoration Exchange Omaha to show off. I walked a group of 35 people from Creighton Prep last month. I've got a group of 35, 40 UNO graduate educated students that want to walk the street and learn what's going on at 24th and Lake. And we have a public tour the second Saturday of every month.
How do we
So
get?
please spread the word.
Am I eligible for that, or am I too old?
You are, are you younger than 74? That's what I am. I think you are.
I just had to say that to you.
So, I'm sorry, I keep saying young lady because I'm not good at names.
Oh, sure.
But would you please tell us a little bit about what you, the flyer that you passed around?
My name is Laisha Goodwin, by the way, if you didn't know. And at Global Leadership Group Garden, 24th and Spencer Street. So we've had the big garden, but we realized that sometimes kids would come on site and it was like, uh-oh, what do we do with them? So we're starting a program called Cultivating Kids. And the hope for Cultivating Kids is to not only teach students grades K through 12 how to start and care for a garden, but also environmental stewardship, so sustainable practices, community care, and how to have fun and engage and start building a sense of community with the kids who live in the area. So that would be Lothrop School, Blackburn, King Science, and Omaha North, because we do know a number of students who live in the area. And it's free. The real goal is to just, again, get that future generation to start having care from a young age so that they can keep their friends accountable, even their parent or guardian accountable, that, hey, this is our neighborhood, it's not a trash can, and we can cultivate beautiful things. With that being said, we are launching on May 26th, so that is 2 Saturdays from now, and the first 10 students on site get a free t-shirt. So that's kind of an incentive for kids to get involved. We're looking at curriculum that would span from, again, the garden, recycling, and what's trash and what's not, what can be reused, but then also like how do we cultivate culture and creating leaders in the neighborhood action fact and surrounding areas. So if you know any kiddos who are interested, or maybe they just need a little bit of push, maybe their leadership skills aren't inherent, but they need an opportunity to plug in, more than welcome to help them.
So what time is this?
This would be from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So our garden days are Saturdays from 2 to 5, but just that 1 hour is dedicated to really sewing into the kids.
Are there any other announcements as far as what's happening in the month of May, June?
I just want to. You go ahead.
Thank you. The farmers market begins June 2nd. It is a Saturday, 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. We will have fresh produce grown by Nebraska and Iowa growers. We get our produce from Lone Tree Foods. And anytime you come to the farmers market, if there is something that you're interested in that we don't have, always let us know and we'll try to get it by the next week. Not only is there, well, I guess herbs are considered produce, and we also do edible flowers. So 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, the very first farmers market. The Jitterbuggers will be performing, as well as a person from the Omaha Conservatory for Music will be doing jazz sax. So come out, support the farmers market. Like I always say, use it or lose it.
What's the location?
I'm sorry, in the OEDC parking lot.
Oh,
That's
okay.
where everything happens.
We have Julie.
We were talking about what the value and purposes of neighborhood associations earlier, and I had a really good reflection. Like the city planning, like thank goodness that all of you are in this room to represent the North 24th Street corridor, because you guys are giving the city planning department such an excellent platform to actually reach community members about, huge things that can really instrumentally affect 24th and Lake. So I just want to say thank you to the city planning department for coming to this group and really embracing what people want. And then thank you all for being in this room so that they have someone to reach out to. Really good. Good job. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm okay.
All right, I have an announcement. Blackburn is going to have what they call Rad Women of Omaha. It's on Friday, May 18th, between 2 and 7. You all are invited. I am one of those women that will be
In our midst.
Where's the show is at Blackburn?
No, it's going to be at Omaha Design Center.
Omaha Design Center.
1502 Cummings Street from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. This coming Friday, May 18th.
Wow. Seems really cool. So, and I'm going to, I guess this is going to be some months coming up that I'm just going to throw this out here. We're still solidifying a location for the YES program, but I'm bringing a young lady here. Her name is Gabrielle Jordan. She became a millionaire when she was 9 years old, and she's now 18. And she's actually coming in a little early because she's going to be speaking at the Mildred Brown Study Center banquet. I guess for the 80th year of the Omaha Star. Because the Omaha Star turns 80 this year. She's going to be speaking at their banquet on July 15th. The conference for the YES program is going to be the 16th and 17th. We're looking at the Metro Culinary Arts Building for that space. We're looking at that space right now. That may change, but for right now, that's where it's going to be on the 16th and 17th. And so I'm looking at marketing this program to 100 kids. First year I did it for 40 kids, and now I'm doing it for 100 kids. It was like, but yeah, we're going to do this again, and hopefully we reach some kids and do some fiscal responsibility and some kids in the neighborhood. So if you know any kids 13 to 18 years old that are in the 68110, 68111, 68112, and 68110 area codes, reach out to me, and we can get them in this class. And it's free for them, and and they can learn about money and investing and media and a lot of other things.
And Chris?
Just one last thing, kind of to reiterate what Julie just said, because I was having the very same thought. A lot of the projects that you see all around North Omaha and around town that the city's been involved with have happened because we've partnered with some organization that came into existence without us. And it was started at a grassroots, whether that was a developer or a nonprofit developer that created Kellam Heights or the other housing developments, organizations that built housing in Long School and the other neighborhoods. That's been kind of the focus for a long time, but there's a lot of other organizations that the city partners with to carry out programs. We look for people to fund and people to do projects with, rather than the city being the entity that does those. And so we really depend on the initiatives that are created in the community by neighborhood organizations, nonprofits, and that sort of thing. It's who we can partner with and who we can find that will actually carry out the work. So.
Any more announcements? Precious, did you have anything in closing?
No, we won't have a meeting this month because we will be in Birmingham, but we will have a meeting June 21st. Our meeting's going to be moved up because we have a really major announcement that needs to be made, and I want to do it before we have to just do it real quick. So I'll get with you this week to give you more details on it, but definitely we have to have that meeting as soon as I just emailed them to confirm the day, and so we'll all meet together and then have that meeting with all the neighborhood associations.
Our next meeting is the second Monday of June. It will be here at the floors. Anyone have their calendar handy for the date of June 11th? June 11th?
Yeah.
At 11:30. As we already know, one of our speakers will be Meredith Dillon. Okay. All right. Again, thank you, Mr. LaFleur, for allowing us to utilize your space and having this meeting. And,
you're welcome.
And thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice crowd, kid.
Yeah.
I got coffee.